It's Monday, so it's time to continue with the Game of Thrones rewrite. Welcome to the newest episode of SDW.
Super Dario World!
It's a me,
Dario!
Woohoo! Let's go!
Okay, so I had a very, very, very busy weekend, but a fun one. On Friday, I went up to Pala to go see a cousin of mine perform. He had a big CD release party, and he was going to perform on stage, and he had my kid brother on stage and a couple of other cousins. So it was a lot of fun. It was pretty chill, a lot of fun. His name is Jesus Leonardo Malesio, if you want to check out his stuff. He has a few videos on YouTube you can check out. It's a Spanish guitar CD, it's actually pretty great. You know, very soothing, very good, like, kind of background music. It's very good for conversations and stuff. Pretty cool. But overall, he's a great guitarist. And I don't know, there's something weird about seeing my kid brother on stage. It's always been fun for me. Anyway, so I did that on Friday. Saturday, a friend of mine, every year he does an annual thing for his birthday. Every year annually, idiot. Anyway, so for every year for his birthday, he likes doing a board game kind of tournament thing. And every year we play Twilight Imperium, which is for those of you who played it, it's a very complicated game. It takes a lot of time. It takes like 6 hours to play it through. It's a lot of fun. It's great. It's probably, I can't say it's my favorite board game, but it's up there. It's top 3 easily, I think, off the top of my head. Yeah, top 3 easily. And so it's a lot of fun. It's a great game to play, and we do it annually. Sometimes we actually get into it and nerd out and do actual role play stuff. It's cool. It's pretty cool. I did not win this year, which was very upsetting. I hate not winning. Not winning is the worst. And I know I should say losing, but I don't want to. But he played a great. Actually, he ended up winning. He played a great game. At the end, it sucks because at the end, I outthought myself. I fucked up epically. Well, it was a combination of things. I fucked up, and he played the final round perfectly. Well, his final round perfectly. So congratulations to you, dude, for winning. I will get you next year. Anyway, so that was a lot of fun. I love doing board games. Board games are the best. Maybe I should do a thing about board games one time, or like a tournament thingy. I don't know. I'll think about it, because I don't know that many people who play those types of board games over here in the States. I have to think about it. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yeah. So, Monday, again, rewrite a Game of Thrones. I have to clarify a few things, because had some people ask me questions like, oh, dude, what's up with the timeline between Sam and Jorah, blah, blah. I tried to explain this earlier before. The timelines aren't going to match up, because I'm not going to do this kind of... The way that I'm doing this is not like the show, where you're seeing... If you see one scene from one guy, and then you see a scene from another at the same time, that's not how I'm doing this. I'm doing this kind of like by chapters. So, in the book, you don't really know when chapters line up. So you just go through one character chapter, and then you go to another character's chapter, but that chapter might be before the other characters or like years after. Well, not years, but or after in the timeline. So I'm kind of trying to play it like that, just because the other way was getting too confusing, and I had a lot of people asking me a lot of questions, and I had to spread out too much. This way I can contain to one area. Anyway, so to clarify, the time that Sam and Jorah spent together in the Citadel, because last episode we talked about Sam meeting Jorah, them bonding a little bit over their relationship with Jorah's father, who was Jeor Mormont, the commander of the Night's Watch. They bonded a little bit together there. Jorah showed him a little bit of the human side of Daenerys, the part that everybody loves, because right now in Westeros, everybody thinks that she's just a crazy person with a dragon and a thirst for vengeance and a bunch of wild barbarians behind her. And so through Jorah, Sam gets to see the kind of like the not merciful side, but the human side, the thing that everybody loves about Daenerys. In Essos, that she took people out of slavery, that she's kind, that she's gentle, all that stuff. And at the same time, Sam told Jorah about what's going on in the north, the situation with the White Walkers and all that stuff. So basically, they spent a lot of time together, because Sam volunteered to be the person in charge of Jorah to help care for him. So Jorah spent there a considerable amount of time, not years, not months, but at least like a month, while they were trying to see if there was anything they could do for him and see if they could learn a little bit about the disease. but it wasn't an extreme amount of time. It wasn't an extreme amount of time, but it wasn't a short amount of time. It was enough for them to bond, enough for Sam to kind of develop his plan about trying to go get the Citadel authorization to go and study the dragon, and at the same time for enough for Jorah to be like, all right, I'll vouch for you. Also for Sam to send out a letter to Jon Snow saying, yeah, I vouch for this guy, and he's going up there. So it was enough time for that, pretty much. So from that being clarified, if anybody has any other questions, reach out. But anyway, that's clear. That's out of the way. Let's get started with this week's episode. All right, so this week we begin. Who have I not talked to about in a while? Where did we last leave off? We talked a little bit about the North. We talked a little about King's Landing. Well, I believe that it's time to talk about Daenerys. Now, for those of you who don't remember, last we left Daenerys, she had just lost pretty much her fleet. The Greyjoys had to return to Pike because Yara took the castle and she called another King's Moot in which Theon would be able to participate and to gain another opportunity to gain his right to participate in the King's Moot and see if he can win the crown, the Iron Crown. Anyway, so they have to go back for that. And so that leaves Daenerys with only one option, and if she has to move north, she can't go straight to King's Landing via ships like she intended. So what she's going to do is she's going to go through land. So her forces are moving on foot. You got the Unsullied, the Dothraki, and some Dornish spearmen going with her. So you got all those forces moving up through the Dorne. They have some ships that help ferry her across the sea there. If you see a map of Westeros, you see Dorne as kind of like a peninsula, and the sea next to it, well, it's like a bay. Imagine like there's a bay between Dorne and the Stormlands. That bay is called the Sea of Dorne. And so they ferried her ground forces, pretty much the Unsullied, and the Dornish spearmen across the bay. Now, the Dothraki did not want to have to get on a boat again if they could avoid it. So they decided to, and since they're faster, because they're on horse, they decided to travel all the way across Dorne and cross through a pass known as the Bone Way. So it's between the mountains, the Red Mountains, which separate Dorne from the Stormlands. And so they would cross that way. Once they exited the Bone Way, they would meet up with the Tyrell forces, who are gathering in High Garden and would be marching that way. And eventually, they would all meet up close to Storm's End for the siege, right? That's the plan so far. Tyrion was not crazy about separating the forces, particularly because they did not have somebody who could lead the Dothraki other than Daenerys. But since the path was not crazy far apart, so at least when they reached the Bone Way, Daenerys would be able to fly with Drogon and check on the Dothraki if there was anything that was going on. Plus, they had Varys leading them, who has a vast communication network, so they would still be in contact. And Obara Sand, who's the tougher of the Sand Snakes. You may remember who she has, the one with the spear, and is the least attractive of all three. So those two, Obara Sand and Varys, would be leading the Dothraki across the Bone Way. Plus, a few Dornish scouts and soldiers to help them guide the way and all that stuff. So the operation starts going on the way. The Dothraki head across Dorne and into the Bone Way, while everybody else just slowly ferries across the Sea of Dorne. Right? That's the operation is slow and steady, and it's stressful for Daenerys, who could just fly there pretty much in a day. Well, not in a day, but she could just fly off and cover a whole bunch of ground, but she has to be mainly patient, and so she's not really great with that, so she decides, you know what, I'm going to be helpful. And she gets on Drogon, and she starts scouting around to see kind of a little bit of the Stormlands, and that's where she realizes where they got their name from, and she decides to head back, and so she instead goes into Dorne, scouts out the Bone Way. She flies around the Sea of Dorne, where there's just a whole bunch of ships moving everywhere, ferrying her army. And so she's doing a whole bunch of stuff, pretty much busy work. That helps nobody, because they already had scouts, and Daenerys does not understand anything about military strategy yet. And so everything she can see is not exactly useful, because she doesn't know what she's looking for. Anyway, so fortunately for her, while she's waiting for all this, the envoy from the Citadel arrives. So you got the Citadel showing up there along with Sam Tarly, and they request to inspect the dragon. And so Daenerys, she already agreed to it, and she was like, all right, fine, you can check out Drogo. So Sam is fucking terrified. And by the way, he decided to send Gilly and little Sam but all over to Hornhill, which is his family home. He finally decided, you know what, if I'm going to leave here, I can't just leave them in the Citadel. So I'm just going to send them along with a letter from me to my mother saying, hey, you know what, can you take care of them, please? Anyway, so he introduces himself to Daenerys, talks a little bit about Jorah, updates her on his condition, all that stuff. And how his father is the commander of the Highgarden forces, which are the Tyrell forces, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. All niceties. And so the Citadel envoy gets on to trying to learn what they can from Drogon. And what they're specifically looking for is to see if there's a way to make dragon glass via dragon fire. Now, the process to make dragon glass, I've always said, or obsidian, is very complicated. Usually only happens inside of volcanoes because it has to be a extremely high temperature and then it has to go low. So the process is not easy. However, they're trying to see if there's a way to do it via dragon fire. And so they're testing out different minerals and stuff. They want to see if they can kind of estimate at the heat level of the dragon's fire, all that stuff, okay? Also, see how the hell the dragon can resist so much heat. Is there anything in their skin? Is there anything on the insides? Now, as you can imagine, this is not an easy process because dragons don't really like to be touched and they're really that nice or friendly. But they're trying slowly to do something, at least from a distance, test out stuff. Hopefully they get a little bit closer and closer. And at the meantime, Sam is telling Daenerys about the situation in the north. Now, Daenerys cannot be sympathetic because, well, that's not true. Daenerys can be a little bit sympathetic because she rides around on a dragon, so she gets how certain mythological creatures can be real, even if other people don't believe it. But at the same time, she's like, I got a war to win, guy. Yeah, I have no time to go and help you against these so-called undead. All right, so let me just finish up here, and then when I'm done, I'll be able to maybe go and help if they bend the knee. So as they're doing this, Daenerys suddenly gets a letter from Highgarden. Highgarden, as you know, is the house of the Tyrells, where the Tyrell army has been gathering. And the letter basically states that Highgarden has been taken over by Randyll Tarly and his forces. So Randyll Tarly has betrayed Daenerys, betrayed the Tyrells, and taken over Highgarden, killing, most likely killing Olenna Tyrell. They don't know. She sent out the letter before they were able to take her. As the forces gathered, Randyll Tarly, along with a whole bunch of other, well, not exactly mutineers, but they decided that Olenna was no longer serving the interests of the Reach of her bannermen. So they took over her castle as they were gathering their forces there, taking advantage of the opportunity, killing off her men, and basically Randyll Tarly claiming the seat for himself. So Daenerys gets this news right as Samwell Tarly, along with the Citadel envoy, is testing out her dragon, doing a few tests on him. That sends her freaking the fuck out because she's like, oh shit, this is a trap. They're going to harm my dragon, my baby. This was all a ploy. So she immediately yells out, Drogon Dracarys, which makes Drogon burn Samwell Tarly and the rest of the Citadel envoy alive. So that's actually not where I'm going to stop it, because as Daenerys does this, Tyrion realizes that, oh shit, the Dothraki are in the middle of the Boneway, which would be a death trap if they get attacked by the Tyrell forces, and they have no idea they're coming. So Daenerys lunges toward where Drogon is, hops on top of him as Tyrion and Grey Worm try to get orders from her. They try to realize, all right, where are we going to rendezvous? Should we move our forces over there, try to defend in case that there's an ambush? What should we try to do? And as Daenerys is yelling out orders and Drogon gets ready to start to fly, he gets hit right in the back near the wing by a ballista. This makes Drogon freak the fuck out, Daenerys as well, and he just bolts out of there. So he's very painfully trying to fly away, but he's managing to do it, and he just bolts the fuck out of there. Everybody in the ground is stunned. Nobody understands what happened. They finally try to follow the trajectory of the ballista, and they see a single, small, really fast-moving ship with black sails going across, kind of sneaking where all the other ships are, on the way back into the sea, out of the Dornish Sea, but with a scorpion on top mounted at the front. And from the mast of that ship two flags come rolling up. The first one is the golden flag of the Baratheons with a black Baratheon stag. The one below it is of a black ship on a pale gray field with a white onion in the cells. The Onion Knight has struck the first blow. And that's it. That's it for today. Hopefully you enjoyed that. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can always find me at Dario the Show on Instagram. Next Monday, we will continue with the other side of that engagement. What did the Stormlanders do? What did the Tarleys do? How did Davos Seaworth, the Onion Knight, get in the middle of all this? We'll find out in the next episode of the rewrite of Game of Thrones. As always, thank you for listening, and I'll see you again tomorrow.